Mr. President, may I be recognized?
Senator Stewart, you're recognized.
How much time does the previous speaker have?
Well, you got your time.
My time? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for this opportunity to be here before you this morning. I just want to commend the gentlelady from Mobile for her remarks. And for our colleagues' information, yesterday, Senator Figures was honored by Legal Services of Alabama she received the Drum Major for Justice. Let's all give her a round of applause for her work and advocacy for our state. It was a wonderful luncheon that we went to, and I went and supported her. Mr. Gentleman from Baldwin County, by way of Conecuh, by way of Mobile, by way of Monroe, I just want to talk about, I know we've heard and we've heard some pontifications about a lot of the legal theories about what's going on in the courts, but I want to talk about the real life implications of the Voting Rights Act and the impacts on our communities and Alabamans. Will you indulge me for a brief moment? Okay. So I just want to share, I hearken back to the words of the gentleman from Watauga County, my next door neighbor. He did the prayer the other day. And he's a good man who works very hard for our state. And I'm paraphrasing his prayer when he said that he's not sure if we can have unity this week. Well, I want to push back on that. We can have unity. We can come together in the name of justice. We can come together in the name of fairness. And unfortunately, as a deliberative assembly, we are at an impasse right now. We are at an inflection point in our nation. We're at a moment, very simply put, you either care about justice or you don't. There is no both sides. This is about justice versus injustice. And I rise today to say that this bill is a grave injustice to all Alabamians. I dare say that this legislation could move us toward authoritarianism. Now, I struggle with that word sometimes, but we see that thrown out a lot because democracies, as we slide backwards, it doesn't happen overnight. It's gradual, it's very quiet, it's insidious. My concerns is about voter stability and changing elections, potentially changing an election in the middle of election. I have never seen that in my lifetime. When we talk about voting rights, we are not just talking about the right to vote. We are talking about the right to representation. The Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, the basis for one person, one vote doctrine. The right to access. We have to do some introspection as Alabamians and think about the citizens we serve. When we talk about voting rights, what hurdles are Alabamians facing getting to the polls? We have to consider all of that. Gentleman from Baldwin County, I just want to let you know that my life, my existence, my lineage has been undergirded by the Voting Rights Act. As you know, I am a native of the historic Selma, Alabama, born and reared in Congressional District 7. I am a graduate of Tuskegee University, which sits in Congressional District 2. And I just want to say that the gentleman from Mobile who represents District 2 in Congress has made a world of difference for that district, and you should be very proud. My district, this is personal for me, my Senate district, I represent 8 counties: Dallas, Lowndes, Perry, Wilcox, Clark, Monroe, Butler, Conecuh. Half is in Congressional District 7. The other half is in Congressional District 2. And I didn't intentionally mention the names of those members of Congress because sometimes we can get caught up. When you individualize things, it limits our ability to address systems and address systemic failure. People in my own family, working class Black people, paid for the Voting Rights Act with blood. I often talk about this in the chamber. I talk about how I got to the Senate. My maternal grandmother, my mama's mama, I didn't say mother, I said my mama's mama was a nurse on Bloody Sunday at Good Samaritan Hospital, called off work, called into work, left her husband, my grandfather, left her babies to treat bludgeoned protesters on Bloody Sunday, all who just wanted the right to vote. My mama's mama, a daughter of sharecroppers in Gee's Bend. She worked and toiled, organized mass meetings, all for her grandbaby. Little did she know, she always said I was going to be in politics, but for her grandbaby to have an opportunity to represent my aunt, my dad's sister, Flossie Menifee, a 17-year-old at R.B. Hudson High School. This is her right here. My aunt right here on Bloody Sunday, courtesy of Auburn University. We found this on Facebook last year. My aunt bludgeoned on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, tear gas, billy clubs, trampled over for the right to vote. Not a long time ago, and we didn't even have the Voting Rights Act intact for 50 years. That is a sin and a shame. That is what we are going through as a nation. You want to know what I had to do last summer? I had to testify. I had to leave the Southern Legislators Conference in Birmingham, Alabama, 5 a.m. to testify before the United States Senate Judiciary Committee. You care to know what we were talking about? Okay. Lowndes County, I represent Lowndes County. That is a county that was known for their activism, known as Bloody Lowndes. People toiled, teachers, farmers for the right to vote, faced death. They have an ongoing environmental crisis. People don't even have running water and working sewage. The last administration awarded funding to address, to remedy those past the neglect. I had to go and testify. When this new administration came in, the funding was stripped and called DEI. Citizens denied. And it wasn't because these were Black people. There was nothing on the application for those grants that mentioned your race. it was because of rural community. You were rural. And these are the same people who are being undermined today. I can draw a line by this legislation. The same people who struggle gave Lowndes County the moniker Bloody Lowndes. And this bill aims to strip political power away from those people. It's a sin and a shame. Black people are being relegated to an underclass by the gutting of the Voting Rights Act. Because when you don't have the opportunity to elect the candidate of your choice, your vote becomes meaningless. What some people are asking for is not fairness. What you're asking for, when you have a bill or a map with all 7 Republican seats, you're asking when 30%, actually 40% of Alabamians vote Democrat. What you're asking for is overrepresentation. You are not asking for equality. You're asking for more power than demographics or fairness justify. And that, my friends, is Republican DEI. That's what you're asking for right now, Republican DEI. When Alabama is one of the blackest states in the country, let's have a dialogue, gentlemen. The last time Democrats, because it's about party, right? Would you agree? It's about party, right? It's not about race, it's about party, right?
Well, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about the Voting Rights Act. Well, the makeup, when we draw maps, it's about party, right? Isn't that what you're saying?
Well, now, we're not, in this bill, the Voting Rights Act is not addressed.
We're talking about the implications. I understand that.
This bill doesn't go into that.
The indirect implications. The last time Democrats won a majority of the white vote was 1964, the same year that Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act. So don't tell me race and politics can simply be separated in America. I have a question. How do you separate party from race when race has shaped the political order of this country for generations? How do you separate them? Someone please talk to me like I'm in 4th grade. How do you separate them? In 2006, the Voting Rights Act was reauthorized, 98-0 in the United States Senate. Are you a President George Bush fan?
President who?
President George Bush, George W. Bush. Are you a fan?
George too?
He signed it. He signed it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My question is, how did we get here? In 1983, the VRA was extended. Ronald Reagan referred to the Voting Rights Act as the crown jewel of American democracy. My question is for my Republican colleagues, how did we get here? The Voting Rights Act was never controversial. Free and fair elections matter. Equal access to the ballot matters. Non-dilution of your vote matters. 70% of Americans, and this is on both sides of the aisle, 70% of Americans are against gerrymandering. Fair maps are extremely popular. Gerrymandering is a problem because when you're gerrymandered or your community is gerrymandered, that means you're gerrymandered out of opportunity. gerrymandered out of resources. Did you know I was a congressional staffer? Did you know I worked as a congressional staffer before I got elected to the Senate?
No, sir, I don't
It
think
was a few jobs back.
a few jobs back.
Yeah, a few jobs back. About four, when was it? I was 2018 to 2020. And I want to share a story for my time as a congressional staffer for the 7th Congressional District. And one of the main jobs of a congressional staffer is you help veterans get their benefits. That was a good thing that we do. That's the first line of defense. Because you can't really call your congressman. Some people can call their congressperson on the phone. But when a citizen calls, they're talking to a staffer. And I remember we had a training. We came to the Central Alabama VA to help because you get trained on the software system. We came here to Montgomery to the Central Alabama VA. All the congressional staffers in the state, regardless of your party, they came. And one of the staffers from a Republican office told me, veterans, they don't need all that money. Why are we getting them all? They don't need all that. Now, we're supposed to be advocating. We're supposed to be the most veteran-friendly state, but that is what she told me out of her mouth. I was taken aback. A veteran shouldn't have to worry about nothing. When they come back from deployment or anywhere, they shouldn't have to worry about food to eat. Their children should be taken care of. They put their lives on the line for our freedom. And veterans are minorities too. They're only 6% of the population. I want to share another story when I first got elected. When I first got elected, you used to represent Monroe County. You know Monroe County very well. Monroe County used to be split between 2 congresspeople. And this was right before Monroe County was moved into the new Opportunity District, because it's not a black district. I tell people to get the language right. It's an Opportunity District. I was on a call, just to let you, I called the congresspeople, the staffers. We had a call, talked to the OBGYN. One of the staffers told me out their mouth, again, I was just taken aback, flabbergasted. They told me, we're not going to be representing this community much longer anyway, so there's nothing we can do. Taken aback. Where I come from, you fight to the end. You represent them now, but that is what I was told out their mouth. So that's why when we talk about an opportunity to have somebody that shares your values, that's important. When we draw districts, the question is because when we sued for this opportunity seat, it wasn't just about race. We considered communities of interest. When we draw districts, the question is whether race was balanced alongside legitimate considerations like geography. You mentioned geography earlier. Migration patterns, political subdivisions, and what communities of what, children? Interests. Communities, say it with me, communities of interest. Keeping communities of interest intact matters. Respecting geographic and regional cohesion matters. This is about geography. This is about, you mentioned earlier, economic cohesion. This is about cultural ties. from Africatown in Mobile to Dallas County. Because 2 and 7 are really heavily interrelated. I did a journey through my whole life in my 36 years, little sprints here and there, other places. You know, I moved around a little bit. Between 2 and 7. These communities share historical, cultural, and economic bonds rooted in the story of the last slave ship and the long struggle for freedom and citizenship in this country. When you see the Democratic caucus, we are not just Black people. We are walking communities of interest. Selma, Greensboro, Birmingham, Mobile, Tuscaloosa, Tuskegee. One big mirage of communities of interest who deserve representation because we, Black people, we are Alabamians too. We too are Americans. See us. See what we have overcome just to get here. So yes, geography and race often overlap because history made it so. We had to move where the jobs were. My ancestors in G's Bend had to move to Mobile, work on the docks. We having a family reunion in Mobile this summer. I'll call you, Senator Figures. Bake a cake, please. We're going to be there this summer. When conservatives ask, how long should the Voting Rights Act last? My answer is simple. However long it takes. However long it takes to root out anti-Black racism. Justice does not have an expiration date. There is a growing sentiment called the colorblindness in legal theory. When you say I'm colorblind, what you're really saying is I refuse to see systems and how they affect marginalized people. That's what you're saying. I'm not talking about abstract theories developed in ivory towers or conservative think tanks. I am talking about real life. Black family homes are being undervalued. You got Black people to this day, when the realtors come, they tell them to hide the pictures because your house is being undervalued. How can we continue as a country with this type of rancor and inequality? Real people, in closing, we are talking about real people, real history, real discrimination, real consequences. And until this country fully confronts that reality, the Voting Rights Act remains necessary. And I just want to say in closing that it's time to stop the steal. Stop the steal of representation. You all said that on January 6th. Well, I agree with you. It's time to stop the steal of representation. Thank you, and I yield to the gentlelady from Jefferson County.
Thanks, Senator Stewart.